this is what I started with. I just popped it up in double back peg, went as slow as possible, trying to keep it as straight as I can, and then I literally just committed to pulling the clutch in and trying to stall. And when I mean stall, I don't mean the bike actually stalling, I mean like parking the bike at 12 and stepping off. And I started with straight line because I figured, I don't know why that would be easier than in a circle, but after I got these pretty comfortable in straight line, I just ended up committing to it in a circle and realized it wasn't that bad. Which I think in the last episode that's up, still on that deep down episode, I think that's when I first started these. So you can go back to that. The first thing I would do to really get comfortable is just do a double back peg and go super slow. And all you're gonna do is really think about it when you're, don't try and overthink it, but focus on the clutch and handbrake. The clutch is just a kind of a binary movement. It's out or it's in. And all you do is pull it in, and what you really want to focus on is the amount of handbrake application you're giving, and like basically not giving it too much. So you're in double back peg, you're going slow, basically where you can keep it as stable as and as straight as possible, and at a speed you'd be comfortable with, kind of almost doing like a coaster. I tend to start slower, and now I've been building up speed and trying to come in a little bit faster and faster. But basically what happens is you go as slow as you'd like to where it's straight and you feel comfortable, and I take my left leg off, so as I'm about to pull the clutch in, I kind of take that leg off and start to reach for the ground. And when you pull the clutch in, the bike will fall back, and don't worry about the clutch, just keep it pulled in, and what you want to focus on is just how much handbrake application you're really giving it, because you don't want to give it too much to where it throws you back down. And I guess like if you're worried about the unknowns, when I've been doing these, the only things I've seen happen so far since my right leg's on is what you saw in the last attempt, was that you'll fall back, but it'll tip over to the right and you can just kind of hop off. Or if you give it too much handbrake, you might kind of drop forward a lot quicker, maybe fly a little bit forward than you've expected. So it takes some commitment. You have to make sure you're going to commit to the trick. So hop in double back peg, pop it up, and try and stay as straight as I can. Kind of go slow. So just like that. I mean, you're here, and if you practice it, you can hop back on, which I also need to do in this video. But this is where I'll cap the first part of it, is practicing these is like the first step to learning clutch and handbrake. And if you think you're more comfortable trying this in a circle, just because you're kind of only standing and going in like one place, if you got them pretty tight, go ahead and try it in that immediately, and then, you know, work on it in a straight line. And that's a pretty good example right there of like what happens if you don't do it correctly. I mean, it started to tip over the side, so you just kind of hop off and stay committed to what you're doing. That's really the only two like outcomes I've seen, is you either successfully park it or it falls over like that and you just hop off, unless you brake too hard with the handbrake. Otherwise you're probably gonna mousetrap yourself. The first thing that I would do is anytime you're doing a wheelie, I mean, it would help in sit downs too, I think, but I primarily do it while doing any sort of stand-ups, double back peg, seat stander, knee knocker, circles. When you're putting the wheel down, just pull the clutch in, just like that. And like the wheel only needs to be like a couple inches off the ground. You're not pulling it up. You're not pulling the clutch in when you're at balance point or anywhere close to it. It's literally right before you're about to touch down. You just pull the clutch in. That's the first thing. And just make that a habit by doing that each time you come down from a wheelie. And like, it'll prevent you from grabbing a bunch of throttle and running into things. Sometimes you might come down and your hands slip off the clutch and there's not much you can do. But there's other times where your hands will be here and you just grab a whole bunch of throttle and something bad happens, as I've shown in the examples before. And with the examples before, I don't know if the people's hands had missed the clutch or they just didn't use it. Because if they miss the clutch, there's not much you can do, like I said. If your hands slip off the clutch and you grab a bunch of throttle, you're going for a ride. But if your hands are still here and you grab a bunch of throttle and you're just not using it, that seems to me to be preventable. So that's why I recommend doing this. And so after you start making that habit, I didn't get into true handbrake coasters. I just got into that drill of trying to stall. And I've stalled a bunch from a sit down where I just go super slow, let the idle carry me, and then kind of let my legs fall off, and you know, the clutch is in, and I usually stop it with handbrake. And that's kind of how I first got started doing stalls. But then I was like, I need to try them in a different variation, like you should do with every new trick. Try them in all the variations. So like I said in the beginning and the middle part of this video, double back peg if that's the most comfortable for you. I need to still do them in seat stander, and like a bunch of other different variations. I've done them in Ralph Louis, doing circles with those, only once, but just, you want to do it in every variation, make it as comfortable as you can. So double back peg, straight line, slow, straight, stable. Clutch goes in, don't think about the clutch so much. All you're doing is pulling it in. You really just want to focus on how much handbrake you're giving it, and you can kind of feel that as the bike pivots around your foot when you step off. And then after you get comfortable in straight line, or if you prefer circles, you can do what I just did and stall in a circle. Like I said, the only outcomes that I've seen is you stall correctly or it'll just tip over to one side. I really haven't mousetrapped in a circle trying to stall them. I have a couple times in a straight line when I didn't commit to them. I had pulled the clutch in and I kind of had to like an oh shit and just grab way too much brake. I'll show you one more circle stall and that'll kind of be it. I just really wanted to, what I've noticed from the last like couple weeks of riding is how important this has become, not only in straight line but in circles as well. Throw up another circle here and show you a stall. See right there, clutch in. I was starting to tip in a little too much, so just pull the clutch in. You hear a little bit of little revs going because the throttle hadn't moved, and I didn't go anywhere because the clutch was pulled in. So right about there, and we stalled just like that. And if I cut it right here, I could not let the clutch out and get back into a circle. So you either see the continuation or this will be the end of the video.
Hottest stash in the carpet. Yeah, we trapping out apartments. I ain't done where you start shit.